Hey, it's Seth. If you saw my recent videos, you know I was backpacking in Yosemite, and a bunch of people asked me questions about the logistics and the gear I brought, so I thought I'd make a video and just go over that stuff. I was planning this Yosemite trip ahead of a work conference, so in addition to being in Yosemite for 2 nights, I was going to be spending 5 nights in San Francisco. So I meant flying into San Francisco, renting a car, driving out to Yosemite, and then back afterwards. I was planning on going at the beginning of November, which is technically the winter season. Essentially after mid-October, the park transitions to the winter time. Most of the stuff you can do in Yosemite is now a first come, first serve situation, and that certainly made things easier in the sense that I didn't have to reserve any backcountry permits weeks or months in advance. But it did mean I had to pay attention to the weather. One thing I learned about Yosemite is that the roads leading into the valley are all twisty, turny mountain roads that go up to 5,000 or 6,000 feet elevation. If there's snow in the forecast, they require that you have snow chains in your car so that you can put them on if need be. Thankfully, the weather was very mild and perfect for my trip, so I didn't need to worry about acquiring snow chains ahead of time. But that was something that I kept in mind. It ended up being warmer than I expected in the midday sun, especially with the heat beating down in those burnt out forest sections. So I'm going to show you what I packed for this trip, starting with the backpack, which is my Hyperlight 40 liter Unbound. When I first started thinking about this trip, I admit that I was starting to regret getting the 40 liter and kind of wished I had the 55 liter, but it absolutely worked out in the end. This was a great pack. Filled to the brim, but not only was it a great pack for this trip, but I was able to use it as my carry-on the airplane, and I'll show you how I did that as well. It's got a big open compartment that rolls up, and then lots of mesh and daisy chain hooks that you can use to put stuff on the outside. So got my Garmin InReach, which I used to send messages to my wife. I also had pretty good reception actually out there for much of my trip until I got fairly deep into the backcountry, but certainly you can't rely on that, so that's why I had my InReach to send messages and my little thermometer. It's good to know just how hot or cold it is, and it was certainly warmer than I anticipated for sure. In terms of my insulation, I had gone back and forth between my 0 degree and my 20 degree quilts from Hammock Gear. I asked on Reddit and people were like, you probably won't regret the 0 degree, and I did not. It's really not that much bigger or heavier to bring the 0 degree versus the 20 degree. And even though the temps only got down to, I think, 29 at the lowest, I still liked having all this warm insulation. And it was sort of nice not having to, have everything super cinched down and dialed in order to maximize the heat from the insulation. Because, this is a 0 degree and I'm dealing with 30 degree temps. I could be a little loosey-goosey in terms of how it laid on top of me. And, it was nice. It was nice not having to fret too much about staying warm. I was definitely warm on this trip. And that goes right at the bottom of my pack. And then here's my tent. This is the Durston X-Mid 1. If you saw the video where I set this up, this is an ultralight tent. It uses stakes and my trekking poles to keep itself standing. It's not a freestanding tent. So it's lightweight, and I actually put it in a little bigger bag because the bag it came with was pretty tight. So I used this Jaxar Better bag I happen to have. It's a little bigger, and it also cinches down pretty well. And so that goes right on top of the sleeping bag. Next to that is my Thermarest pad. This is the Neo Air, and it has an insulating R value of 7.3, I believe. Definitely kept me warm, definitely kept me comfortable. I was very happy with this pad in conjunction with the X-Mid 1 tent and the Hammock Gear Burrow top quilt. In terms of what I wore during the day, I wore my 3-season REI hiking pants, a long sleeve REI base layer, which I swapped out for a synthetic t-shirt once it got hotter during the day. I'm glad I had my pants because there was thorny brush that really would have ripped my legs apart if I had shorts on. And then if it got colder, I had a long sleeve windbreaker and my puffy jacket that I could put on. So that worked out well. I didn't end up needing my legging base layers, nor did I need my heavier hat and gloves. I knew those would probably go unused, but I was happy to have them just in case. Finally, going in the pack would be my extra clothes. So this contained all my extra clothes for the trip. In here, I have my down puffy jacket. I have some really warm gloves and a hat. My puffy down booties that I wear to bed are in here, along with an extra pair of socks and some thermal leggings just in case. So probably a little overkill on the clothes, but I wanted to have stuff just in case I needed it. You can even compress it a little more if I needed to, but it wasn't too much to worry about. And then it goes in top of the pack, and then I can roll it up. And then the side straps help really pull it down and compress the pack a bit. For my belt pockets, one of them contained lightweight hat and gloves, a lighter, and then my main headlamp. The other one contained my backup headlamp, and then various snacks I would eat during the day. On the back of the pack, I would keep items that I would want accessible. My rain jacket, that's the primary bulky thing that's going back there, just in case I needed to pull it out. My little first aid kit goes down near the bottom. My stove, my little pocket rocket stove from MSR goes in there. Just in case, I brought some hand warmers and some foot warmers, and then my Yosemite map. And they all just slide into that back pocket. My stakes for my tent would go back here, along with my toiletries, my poop shovel, toilet paper, some sunscreen, and some hand sanitizer. My water filter, which ended up not working great, but I didn't know that at the time. And an item I truly didn't need, but I just wasn't sure and I didn't want to not have it, so I brought micro spikes. They ended up not being used. There wasn't that much snow by the time I got there. It had snowed a couple weeks prior to me going, and I just wasn't sure. Deep in the back country, I couldn't find any reports that suggested exactly what it was going to be. So better safe than sorry, I brought the spikes. And then I got my cooking pot and my drinking cup. I put the lid for the pot, just tuck it in back here, and then both of these two cups ended up just sharing a carabiner for the bulk of the trip. These giant side pockets, one contained my Nalgene bottle with Tailwind, and then I tucked this small pad in the back that was useful for just kneeling on when I was doing stuff in my tent because the ground was just so dirty. And then in my other pocket, water bottle I purchased at the airport, along with my electronic bag. This thing is not light, it weighs probably about 2 pounds, but it does contain a big honking battery and lots of cords, extra GoPro batteries, and extra SD cards. So I put it in my outside pocket, which worked great because then when I needed to charge something during the day, I could just unzip it, kind of connect the appropriate cord to the battery, and if I was charging my GoPro or my phone, I could just tuck it right in here in between them and it would just charge during the day, so I didn't have to worry about it. Nice and easy to access. My trekking poles, I pretty much used the entire trip, so I just was holding them almost the whole way. Then finally food. So there's nothing in it now because I've eaten it all, but at the time it was full of food, and what I did was I put it actually on top of the Hyperlight. The nice thing about the Unbound is that they have this really cool Y-shaped strap on the top. It's a great way to store this bulky item, which otherwise would take up an enormous amount of room within the pack. There we go. And that thing held in place very well for this trip. So this is what the pack looked like, all assembled for Yosemite. It came out to, I believe, 22 pounds base weight, and then 28 pounds with my consumables. That's water, food, and fuel. And that's one thing missing here is the fuel canister. I had to buy a medium-sized one. That's all they had at Walmart. And that just was in here, just kind of pushing in. These mesh pockets can really hold a lot of stuff. So that's what my pack looked like for Yosemite. In terms of what worked well, certainly the sleeping bag, I was glad I had the 0 degree. It was a little overkill, but it was still very nice and warm. The tent worked great. I did not need the spikes. That was not needed, but and now a week later, those could be necessary. So certainly, I'm not sorry I brought them. It was good to have. And so overall, I was very happy with the gear I brought. It kept me warm. I was not used to the hiking with the weight at first, so the first day was rough, especially with the altitude, but I definitely felt much better on day 2. So overall, it looks a little crammed in the back, but it really did work well for me. It was a good situation. Having the bare canister on top was great. In order to get all this from Rhode Island to California, a lot of this stuff ended up getting packed into a bag I checked. Some of it is required to be checked. So Your trekking poles, you want to check these. You don't want to bring these on the plane because they could be considered weapons and they could be confiscated. Same thing with like your spikes. So these are the sort of things that will definitely go into checked luggage. Much of this other stuff also went into checked luggage because it's just loose, you know, items. The bear canister is a big bulky thing, but you know, it's nice to put it just in the suitcase and not worry about it. Essentially, for my purposes, I took pretty much everything off of the backpack, strapped it down as best I could, and just filled it with like soft stuff, like some clothes I needed, just in case I lost my luggage. But let me show you what the pack looks like once I've prepared it for airplane travel. So for the purposes of packing this for a flight, I basically cinched down the side pockets. I took the belt and I flipped it the other way so that it wraps around the back of the backpack. And this works well just to keep everything cinched in fairly tight so nothing's going to catch when you're walking around the airport. And then it's easy enough to just connect these straps in the front and just carry it like luggage. But in general, this pack was fairly light going on a plane, so this is my carry-on bag. Then I have a little backpack, that's my personal item. And then I have a lot of my hiking gear and all the rest of my clothes for this trip in a big, regular old suitcase that I checked. So anyway, that's what I brought and how I packed for my trip to Yosemite. Hopefully this was helpful for you. If you have any questions, please post them below in the comments. Thanks as always for watching, and we'll see you next time.